When working with perimeters, sometimes we need the ability to convert units. So this problem states how many centimeters are in 8 millimeters. So we know we're starting with 8 millimeters. We use mm to represent millimeters. And we also know that 1 centimeter is the same amount as 10 millimeters. So the question is, do we multiply by 10, divide by 10? How do we know what we're going to do to convert this into centimeters? So we're going to write this equation as a conversion factor. We can either write it as 1 centimeter over 10 millimeters or 10 millimeters over 1 centimeter, depending on what we need to happen. If we're starting in millimeters and we want to change our unit into centimeters, we want the one with centimeters on top of the fraction. We're going to multiply by the conversion factor 1 centimeter over 10 millimeters. So when we do that, we'll see that we end up having the divide by 10 on the bottom of the fraction. This basically means divide the 8 by 10. We can also just work with it as a fraction and say that we know this is 8 times 1 over 10, and we can make the 8 a fraction by placing it over 1 and doing 8 times 1 over 1 times 10. So that's how we might do it by hand, and we get 8 over 10. Or we can actually plug the whole thing into a calculator. Often I use the Desmos Scientific Calculator. So if we're going to plug in 8 times 1 over 10, we would go 8 multiplied by 1 divided by 10. I can either hit the divide sign and it will turn it into a fraction, or I could have hit a over b. And we see that once we type it in, we get 0.8. Now let's use this in a perimeter problem. Kevin wants to fence in his yard. The fencing is sold by the yard, but his measurements are in feet. How much fencing would he need to buy in yards? Wrong version of buy, B-U-Y. So we know the measurements of the fence in feet. If we want perimeter, the entire fence, we also need to take the fact that the 32 on top is 32 feet on the bottom. 18 feet on the left is the same as the 18 feet on the right. So to find perimeter, we add all 4 sides together. 18 plus 32 plus 18 plus 32 is going to equal, let's pull up the calculator again and plug it in so we don't have to do it by hand, equals 100 feet. Now this problem is not done because we need to buy the fencing in yards. We know yards is 1 yard for every 3 feet. And we want to change from feet into yards, so our conversion factor would be 1 yard for every 3 feet. And we can type into our calculator 100 times 1 over 3. We're just going to ignore the units when we actually type it in. So I'm going to go to a new line on the calculator. We do 100 times 1 divided by 3, or 1 over 3, and that gives us 33.33333 repeating, so 33.3, and we would just round 33.3 yards. And that's our final answer. This is now the perimeter of the fencing in yards.